Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
As we've been reporting, President Trump said today that the NHS would be on the table in any trade deal. He may or may not have changed his mind on that since. Campaigners are fearing, though, this might include forcing the health service to pay more for drugs, getting rid of existing mechanisms for price controls. But the NHS is already facing challenges around the cost of new drugs, as we know. One that's attracted a lot of political attention is the cystic fibrosis treatment Orkambi. The NHS in England and the US company that makes it have yet to reach an agreement over an acceptable price. As the stalemate persists, Newsnight can reveal that patients and parents have formed a club to import a copy of Orkambi from Argentina. Here's Deborah Cohen.
They got good meds out of Mexico that's better than what you can get here in the States.
Oscar-winning Dallas Buyers Club tells the story of Ron Woodruff. In the 1980s, he learnt that he had HIV, but drugs to treat the virus were unavailable in the United States. So he smuggled in treatments from abroad, helping himself and hundreds of other patients.
Welcome to the Dallas Buyers Club.
There's a similar idea that's gaining traction in the UK as the NHS faces up to the high prices being demanded by drug companies. Inevitably, it's patients that have been losing out.
This afternoon, 1,000 handwritten letters will arrive at Downing Street asking the Prime Minister to personally intervene in the stalemate between NHS England and the drug company Vertex. One of those letters is from Louis, who is 7. He says, "Please, Mrs May, can you give Orkambi to me so I will feel better and won't have to spend so much
time in hospital. Thank you. Lewis Walker, 8-7, but I'm 8 now.
Just do a huff and a cough, clear your throat.
Lewis has cystic fibrosis, a potentially life-shortening condition affecting the lungs and other organs.
Can I say 8-8? Because I am 8.
Lewis still doesn't have access to Orkambi, the drug he asked for a year ago in his letter to the Prime Minister. Orkambi can help to slow the decline in lung function and decreases the risk of infections that people with cystic fibrosis are more likely to get. Years of negotiations between the NHS and Vertex, the US company that holds the licence to market it here, have drawn a blank.
When you get used to cystic fibrosis, you deal with it and you make the most of your time. And when you can't change something, you can't let it get to you, can you? You rise to it. But when there is something that you can change, and this is a physical thing that exists, but we can't have it, that is torturous. That is really torturous. It's immoral and it's unacceptable, and I can't allow it to exist without Lewis trying it anymore. He has got to have access to that medicine.
Vertex came up with a price tag of £104,000 per person for a year's supply of Orkambi, but told the BBC they offered a confidential discount on this. The NHS concluded this wasn't cost-effective, but later made Vertex a counter-offer.
£500 million over 5 years. This was described by the NHS as the largest ever financial commitment in its 70-year history. Tragically, Vertex rejected the offer.
NHS England have since said they have improved this offer, and Vertex said they have worked tirelessly to reach an agreement.
So my MP, the Prime Minister...
Christina is scathing about the behaviour of Vertex and wrote to the Health Select Committee with her concerns.
I think everyone recognises that businesses have the right to make a profit, but when the drive for excessive reward costs lives, then that's unacceptable. It's profiteering.
It's time to end the global freeloading once and for all.
President Trump has already said the rest of the world is paying too little for its drugs, potentially emboldening companies like Vertex to hold out for higher prices.
We have great power over the trading partners.
The Health Select Committee have suggested Vertex is at risk of becoming one of Trump's minions, which Vertex denied. But MPs agreed it appears to be an abuse of monopoly position. Hardly news to the people who'd been fighting for affordable access to Vertex's drug.
Welcome, everybody.
So, Newsnight can reveal this buyers club a collection of patients and parents, including Christina, now taking matters into their own hands.
There's no excuse now. We need to decouple Vertex from this situation.
They're meeting representatives of an Argentinian drug company. Because Vertex didn't patent its drug in that country, this company has made a generic version.
So these are the two drugs in question. This is Orkambi, made by Vertex, and this is Lucaftor, made by Gador. And they've both got the same active ingredient, and it's the generic name. So Lumacaftor, Ivacaftor, and here's Orkambi, Lumacaftor, Ivacaftor.
Like other buyers' clubs in the UK Newsnight has spoken to, the Cystic Fibrosis Group have taken crucial steps to ensure the drugs they're importing contain what they say they do.
We've also tested a sample of your product along with a sample of the Vertex product.
Members of the cystic fibrosis community aren't the first to start a buyers' club in the UK. There's a growing number here. A 3-month supply of drugs can be imported legally for personal use, and patients are joining together to exercise that right.
Very, very few people know about this. But there are people, for example, people who have hepatitis C, people with pulmonary fibrosis, people with certain cancers, who are importing the drug from foreign countries, good quality copies of the drug for their personal use. And they often do this with the supervision of NHS doctors.
Oh, this feels quite emotional.
This is the first time Christina has actually got her hands on the generic drug she's pinning her and Lewis's hopes on.
A bit overwhelmed.
The Argentinian drug company Gador is currently asking for £23,000 per patient per year, which they'll drop to £18,000 if this buyers' club can get at least 500 people involved. Remember, Vertex are asking for £104,000. Some patients in the buyers' club are already paying Vertex this kind of money directly. £18,000 would be a huge drop, but still a lot to pay privately. Getting a generic into the NHS, though, isn't that straightforward when there's a patented one available.
Normally, if a drug is patented, then only the company that did the original research can sell that drug in that country. And the generics only come in after the patent has expired, but that can be many, many years.
However, there are other potential workarounds, including one called a Crown Use or compulsory licence, when a government overrides a patent. Recently, Vertex reassured its shareholders that the UK government was unlikely to go down this route.
It's inconsistent with their desire to foster a vibrant life sciences ecosystem. I would say we're not really focused or particularly concerned, frankly, about compulsory licensing.
There's a Vertex AGM taking place tomorrow. Word is that its shareholders are growing very jittery about the risk of reputational damage.
This is the ultimate model, really, because it gets the drugs to everyone and it's funded directly by, as you can see, through a trial done by the NHS.
Another workaround has already been used with NHS England's support by campaigners for the HIV prevention drug PrEP. Legally, the NHS can fund a clinical trial of a drug in the name of research, ignoring patents. The trial can run for as long as it needs, with large numbers of participants. Vertex would argue they've spent billions in researching Orkambi and other drugs for cystic fibrosis, and it's a big investor in the UK. They told Newsnight that companies who claim to be able to produce a product similar to Orkambi have not had to bear the cost of drug discovery and development.
What do we want?
Orkambi! Parliament will debate Orkambi again this month. The cost of medicines are being challenged around the world. Meanwhile, Lewis and Christina are now part of a club who say they're tired of having their futures determined by others. Negotiating their own deal looks like their best shot.
That was Deb Cohen in the report produced by Stuart Denman. We should say that we asked the Department for Health to comment, but they declined.